The second wave of DC's new Absolute Comics line continued this week with the release of Absolute Martian Manhunter #1, the first issue in a 6-issue miniseries, and definitely their most creatively ambitious book so far. For those that aren't aware, the Absolute comics are set in a brand new universe separate from the decades of continuity that bogs down the mainline universe. This universe is unique in that it was created by the evil new god Darkseid and is permeated with his negative energy. It's not like he's the god of the universe looking down on people from the clouds, it's more that the universe is just generally more negative and cruel. As such, the heroes of this universe look quite different. So far we've seen Absolute versions of Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman and the Flash, who are very different. A working class civil engineer, a princess of hell, an alien refugee fighting to save the planet from environmental devastation, and a teenage fugitive respectively. In this issue, we briefly meet the Absolute version of one of Martian Manhunter's few recurring villains, Michael Miller, known as Human Flame in the mainline universe. While we only see him briefly, he is pretty central to the story, which opens with Miller blowing himself up in a crowded cafe as an act of terrorism, and FBI agent John Jones is the only survivor. John is part of the Stochastic Terror Division. If you're not familiar with that word, I know I wasn't and had to look it up. It refers to things that are random with patterns that can be analysed but are very hard to predict, like otherwise normal men putting on supervillain costumes and blowing themselves up in a cafe. You'd think that after surviving a traumatic event like that, he'd want to take some time to recuperate, but John refuses to slow down, despite his doctor's orders. He lies to his wife Bridget, telling her that the doctor said he was fit for duty and that his bosses denied his request for time off. At the same time, he persuades his bosses to let him keep working on the condition that he stays away from the bomb site, which is another promise that he breaks. He argues that he has 12 active cases on the go, and a 2-week break would have a negative impact on his investigations that would take months to recover from, and people's lives are at risk, but it's clear that there's something else driving him. Agent Jones is very demonstrably a strange person. His colleague, Agent Newell, calls him the Martian, presumably because he's always been a bit spaced out and different. Since the explosion, he has been able to pick up on people's thoughts, and he sees them in the form of coloured smoke. For instance, while interviewing Miller's mother to try and find a motive, he can see parts of Miller's childhood, how he was a happy boy until his father left. And this happens with pretty much everyone. What's more, there's somebody in the smoke encouraging him to breathe it all in. It exists entirely in his mind and has been described as an interdimensional being in the solicitations for the future issues. I think that this is quite an interesting representation of psychic abilities, as being more like our sense of smell, where we can always smell things that are near us and can choose to breathe the sense in more deeply if we want more information. John initially thinks this is a manifestation of a severe head injury, but the doctors say that there's nothing unusual in his brain scans. Perhaps his issue is more psychological rather than physical. And when he gives in and takes a full inhale of the thoughts around him, the being responsible for these new abilities reveals itself to him. It intervened to save John from the explosion and has chosen him to be its physical form. It speaks in broken English, but it's clear that the two of them are now one. What I really loved about this issue is the final page, or maybe final 2 pages I guess, where this joining is made clear. If you have a physical copy of the book, you're encouraged to hold the final page up to the light so that you can see the image on the other side bleeding through. Now obviously this won't work for people that are reading it digitally, but I've done my best to crudely replicate the final effect. With the two figures merged, we can see that its singular eye now sits at John's forehead, like the mystical seeing third eye that we're all supposed to possess. The entity reveals their new combined identity as, and I quote, the Martian Mindfucker. Which is very in keeping with the rest of the Absolute line, which was originally going to be called the AF line until DC's lawyers shot the idea down, according to writer Scott Snyder. Writer Deniz is fairly well known for his inventive use of page structure. For instance, in The Ultimates, which he's writing for Marvel at the moment, he wrote an issue that was the origin of Ultimate Doctor Doom, where the top half of the page dealt with the events in the past, while the bottom half of the page dealt with events in the present. You could read the comic however worked best for you, either in the usual sequence going from top to down, page to page, or by only reading the top of each page before going back to the start and reading the bottom half. Either way, worked perfectly. It's a very creative way of telling a story and took full advantage of one of the unique aspects of the comic book medium. This book continues in a similar vein, but with more psychedelic imagery courtesy of Javier Rodríguez. There's a neat cleanliness to this art that evokes 1950s Americana while also having a European quality to it. which contrasts starkly with the bright colours of John's psyche. It kinda reminds me of the work of the late director David Lynch, whose films often dealt with the seedy underbelly of society and the unseen worlds around us. This can also be seen in the Jones family themselves. Bridget notes that she hasn't made any friends since they came to town, and with John working long hours, she feels lonely. Even on the rare occasion where he is able to get home before midnight, John doesn't sleep much, which is clearly putting a strain on the family. Their son Tyler is non-verbal, but is seeing a speech therapist. He has a hobby of sculpting and painting models, and one of the models looks just like the being inside of John's mind. Absolute Martian Manhunter 1 is available now from all good comic shops. If you are based in the UK and don't have a comic shop near you, then you might want to use my affiliate link with the UK's biggest comic retailer, Forbidden Planet. I have included a link in this video's description. Alternatively, if the idea of hoarding a collection of comic books fills you with dread, I am getting perilously close to filling our storage unit, you may want to try getting a digital copy of the issue from Amazon. I also have an affiliate link which you could use to help my channel out. I've included the Amazon affiliate link in the info button in the top right corner, as well as this video's description. To those that have read the issue, what did you think? How long do you think it'll take before Bridget clocks on that John isn't being honest? What is the significance of their son's silence? And what about Agent Newell? He seems to be pretty suspicious of John. How long until he uncovers his secret? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And just before I wrap up, special thanks to all of my current channel members who help make these videos possible. Their names are listed on screen right now. Next time, I'll be back very shortly to talk about the 6th issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, where Diana has to deal with the consequences of escaping from hell. Then on Friday we'll be talking about Big Barda, who was a substitute for Wonder Woman in Batman Beyond's version of the Justice League, but there's so much more to her than that. Next Monday I'm going back to my The Batman villain poll to talk about the villain that came in 4th place, Bane, and how their version is little more than a glorified action figure. Oh, and I'll also be talking about more comic books next week. Absolute Superman number 6 is coming out, which features a homecoming of sorts, where the fugitive Kal-El hides out in Smallville, but the locals don't seem to be all that welcoming. The Absolute line's expansion continues with the 1st issue of Absolute Green Lantern, which promises to be more of a cosmic horror book when a mysterious object lands in a town in the USA and changes everything. And also, the 5th issue of Two-Face's solo series will be out, and we'll finally learn more about the mysterious villain Die. Hope to see you then.